Colby Duckington. Someone called the cops. I was just offered a fight against a cuck. I still declined. 0-3 in title shots. I am just a bum. Shit my pants against Leon Scott. Now I've dropped the plot. So Colby Duckington had an interview with Submission Radio where he spewed a lot of nonsense. And in this video, I'm going to be refuting every single point that Colby makes in that stupid interview that he had. The first thing Colby Duckington says is that he's been slowly healing his foot. And if you guys don't remember, Colby said that he injured his foot during the first round of that Edwards fight and that he threw a head kick, and then after that it basically compromised him for the rest of the fight. And in this interview, Colby's implying that he was going into the fight not 100%, which was absolute bullshit. Like, which one is it, Colby? Did you go into the fight not 100%? Or did you injure your foot throwing a head kick against Edwards? Which one is it? You know, so that's the first lie. Right off the bat, right at the beginning of the interview, Colby straight up lies. Now after that, he goes on and talks about a bunch of nonsense, about how he sacrificed so much for the UFC, about how he went to Brazil a long time ago and he called, you know, the entire country dirty and filthy animals when he defeated Damian Maia, and like how he was being constantly attacked. It's like, bro, the UFC did not tell you to threaten a whole country and insult a whole country. You decided to do that for your own gain, so you can't now use it as a victim story, as, oh, look at me, I sacrificed so much for the UFC. Like, stop with that bullshit, bro. No one feels any sympathy towards you. So Colby finally gets asked about the Ian Garry fight, and it's not happening. Colby's clearly ducking Ian Garry. You know, they ask him about all of the stipulations that he made, and when he made those stipulations, you know, they were funny. And we all knew that Ian Garry wasn't going to do any of it. The reason why people were excited about those stipulations was because we knew that it was going to lead up to a fight. We knew that, you know, it was going to build up to a fight. And Colby calling out Ian Garry, as much as I'm not that excited about it personally, I understand that it was the fight to make and that it is the fight to make. So for Colby to come out and say that he has nothing to gain from fighting Ian Garry is absolutely delusional. If anything, Colby has the most to gain from a fight with Ian Garry, because Colby's stock is in the absolute dumpster. Nobody cares about Colby coming off that Edwards fight. And if he fights Ian Garry, who is hated by the MMA community because of all the controversy with him being a cuck, the wife, if Colby's able to beat Ian Garry, people are going to forget about Colby's fight against Leon Edwards. They're going to forget about his inactivity, about him sitting in his rankings. People will quickly forget about everything that Colby has done. So I don't understand why Colby doesn't see that, why he doesn't see the upside to fighting Ian Garry, because there's a lot of upside to fighting Ian Garry, an undefeated prospect with a lot of hype. I understand that perhaps with MMA casuals, they don't really know who Ian Garry is, or to the casual audience, they don't really know about Ian Garry. But Colby's not in a position of leverage. He's coming off a terrible performance against Leon. It wasn't like that fight was very competitive. It was close. Colby came off short, but he still put it a great performance. No, Colby looked absolutely terrible. So Colby really has no leverage. And then he wants to come out and say that he's a big superstar, which is a complete lie. Colby's not even in the top 10 pay-per-views in the UFC. The only pay-per-views, Usman and Masvidal, which was on short notice, and Masvidal had all the hype in the world. But where's Colby? I mean, he says he's a big pay-per-view superstar. Show us. Show us. How many pay-per-views did Masvidal versus Colby sell? How many pay-per-views did Usman versus Colby 2 sell? So Colby's not a big pay-per-view draw. And for him to come out and say that, you know, he's a big pay-per-view star, that he has all the leverage, that he chooses his opponents. Yeah, maybe you're right. Maybe a year or two ago, Colby's right. But nowadays, no one gives a fuck about Colby. Even the UFC knows that he put a terrible performance against Leon Edwards. And I really feel like the only fight for Colby right now is Ian Garry. And then he goes out there and he calls out Charles Oliveira and Belal Muhammad. And the funny thing about that was that Belal Muhammad, before fighting Gilbert Burns, had been calling out Colby Covington for months, for about a year. And Colby Covington wanted nothing to do with Belal Muhammad. But now that Belal is at the cusp of a title shot, all of a sudden Colby wants to fight him. You know what I'm saying? So Colby truly has no shame. The guy's an absolute joke. The guy's an absolute clown. I'm tired of Colby Covington. He's ducking the fight with Ian Garry, guys. He doesn't want the smoke. He truly doesn't. And this is coming from a guy that doesn't really care about Ian Garry. I'm not an Ian Garry fan. I don't even think the fight would be all that exciting in the cage. Colby's done. I think Colby's truly done with fighting, guys. He doesn't care about fighting. He doesn't care about the fans. He doesn't care about fighting contenders. He doesn't care about improving his MMA skills. So why is Colby fighting? Why is Colby fighting? And he's not this big pay-per-view star that he thinks he is. He's really not. Look at the numbers. Look at Colby versus Masvidal. Did that sell over 1 million pay-per-view buys? No. Did Colby versus Usman 2 sell over 1 million pay-per-view buys? No. Did the first fight sell over 1 million pay-per-view buys? Absolutely not. So Colby is not the superstar that he thinks he is. Just because he gets a bunch of likes and comments from 12-year-olds when he makes, when he talks shit on a press conference or he makes a video, that doesn't mean that it translates to pay-per-view buys. So Colby is not a superstar. He doesn't have the leverage that he thinks he does. And I feel like he needs Ian Garry more than Ian Garry needs him, because whatever happens with Ian Garry, he's going to get a fight up the rankings. And in my opinion, the fight to make at this point is Ian Garry versus Kamaru Usman, because I feel like there's really no fight for Kamaru Usman up at 185 right now. 185 is basically booked. And I feel like a fight between Ian Garry and Kamaru Usman makes a lot of sense right now, right? JDM versus Shavkat Rakhmonov is happening. Leon Edwards versus Bilal Muhammad. So at this point, if I were the UFC, I would say, you know what, Colby? Go fuck yourself. Get the fuck out of my company. Let's make Kamaru Usman versus Ian Garry for UFC 303. I understand that the buildup is not going to be as exciting because Kamaru Usman isn't going to talk shit the way Colby does. But in my opinion, Colby's shit talk, it's terrible. It's scripted. It's bad. It's laughable. I don't know who he's trying to appeal to. So I prefer the fight between Kamaru Usman and Ian Garry. I feel like that fight's a little bit more appealing, especially since Kamaru Usman looked pretty decent against Khamzat Chimaev. I don't think Kamaru Usman is as washed as some people make him out to be. And I feel like if Ian Garry is able to get through a Kamaru Usman, I think that says more and does more for him than a win over Colby Covington. So after all this, I think we just want to see Colby Covington get knocked the fuck out. At this point, I just want the UFC to give Colby a really bad matchup and to see Colby get knocked out for the final time, for Colby to finally retire. Because like I just said, Colby doesn't really care about fighting. He's a politician. He doesn't care about being the best. He doesn't care about improving his MMA skills. He thinks he's Trump's favorite fighter, but let's be honest, like, he's Trump's favorite dick rider, maybe, because he's not even a fighter at this point. He's so inactive. He doesn't fight any contenders. He just put a terrible performance against Leon Edwards. So what kind of leverage does Colby have at this point? Like, if you guys are Colby fans, let me know down in the comments below. What kind of leverage does Colby has? He has absolutely none. He's not a big pay-per-view superstar. He doesn't sell pay-per-views. He talks like he's a superstar, guys, but if you guys look at the numbers, they don't show that. They don't reflect that. So this whole thing of Colby being this big superstar, this massive fight, it's really not at this point. It's really not. His stock is at the absolute dumpster fire. He called out Charles Oliveira, which is kind of a bad matchup for him. I think Charles would absolutely destroy the current version of Colby Covington. Maybe this fight a year ago would have been a very interesting matchup, but at this point, you guys don't really care about it. I feel I don't care about it. You guys don't care about it. We don't care about Colby. The only interesting part about this was if Colby would have fought Ian Garry at UFC 303 in a card with Conor McGregor. That would have been actually pretty interesting. As a person who wasn't really all that excited for the fight, sign me up. I would have been happy with that. But now that Colby's declining the fight against Ian Garry, Ian Garry should just move on, fight Kamaru Usman. Colby's going to sit out, probably fight a Wonder Boy, pick an opponent, and then lose again, because that's what Colby does best.